when you start at university, what kind of things are you going to be asked to do, and then finally grades at Flinders. So what are they? How do you calculate them? How will it affect you, etc. So, as I said, I am from the Student Learning Support Service. This is what our website looks like, and again, you can find it by just Googling SLSS Flinders, okay? But we provide support from learning advisors, we provide online study resources, and we provide workshops and modules. So the number one kind of portion of support from learning advisors, this is kind of our core support area. We have the Learning Lounge, which is a drop-in study space where learning advisors can answer any questions that you might have. They can also help you work on assignments. They can help you understand assessment requirements, structure assignments, enhance academic writing style, understand referencing conventions, improve your understanding and application of grammar rules, and to help your self-editing skills. Now, the Learning Lounge is not a draft checking service. We can't look over your entire completed assessment, but what we can do is read a couple of paragraphs, offer you some support, sit with you while you make those changes, look back over other areas, help you get started, help you with drafting, look at your reference list, etc. Okay? So, and the Learning Lounge is on level 2 of the Central Library here at Bedford Park. It's open from 11 to 2 every day, and it's open Monday to Friday. We also have a Learning Lounge in the Festival Plaza campus that is also open Monday to Friday. It's on level 4, and that's open 11 to 1. And then we also have a Learning Lounge on Sturt campus, which is open Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 1 p.m. So there are a lot of areas where you can access support, and we're also attempting to begin an online learning lounge, when we can organize an online learning lounge, this information will be available on our website, but it also will likely be given to you by tutors or any other support service. So we also have our PDF guides. Now, our PDF guides are accessible via our Flow page, but they're also accessible via our website. And essentially, these are PDF guides which go through anything from referencing to quoting to writing introductions to how to edit, how to proofread, to very minute grammatical details. There's some chairs down the front if you wanted to come. And you can access them from like a variety of areas. We also have our English for Academic Purposes workshops. So I run those, and they are a voluntary program of classes that are run in person and online, and they focus on a wide range of study skills, all focusing on how to kind of engage with academic writing. So we have academic writing kind of 101, so kind of how to get from your introduction to your conclusion in an assessment. We have writing clearly and concisely. So this is a little bit about what I spoke about in last session, how we can write in a way that is professional, that is easily understandable. Also paraphrasing and quoting. So this can be a bit of a stumbling block for any university student to kind of understand how to integrate references. We're told a lot that we need to reference. We don't often explain how exactly we're supposed to integrate that evidence. So we have some workshops on that. Also understanding academic readings, reading effectively, writing for the sciences, and then editing and proofreading. So essentially a bit of an elongation of what we spoke about in our previous session. There are 4 online workshops that you can access via Flow, again from the website, from the SLSS website. But there are also workshops that I run. There'll be about 6 in semester 1. I might also be running some in your classes. You never know. I pop up anywhere at this school. But the Student Learning Support Service is where to go to get this kind of information. I believe that QR code links to the website. All right? Cool. Let's start with colleges, courses, and topics. So, put your hand up if you know what college you are studying in. Most of us? Some of us? Cool. So I went to the University of Adelaide, but I was a HASS student, so Humanities, Arts and Social Sciences. So let's start very, very broad. The university, okay? We all go to Flinders, but the university is here. It exists to create new knowledge, to put knowledge into practice, and then to learn new knowledge. So this is our kind of ethos for the university, but these are our colleges, okay? So do you recognize your college up here on this screen? Yep, so you will study under one of these broad colleges. So business, government and law, you will also heard this referred to as BGL. Education, psychology and social work, or EPSW. Humanities, arts and social sciences is often called HASS. Medicine and public health is often called MPH. Nursing health sciences is called NHS, and science and engineering is often referred to as CSE, or the College of Science and Engineering. So essentially, when you are doing your degree program, that is the degree that you will graduate from, could be Bachelor of Nursing, could be Bachelor of Health Sciences, mine was Bachelor of Arts. These are determined by what college you are studying in. Cool? So all 6 colleges focus on a different area of knowledge, and your degree program equals the course that you are taking. So your course is a collection of topics. The topics are the individual things that you are enrolled in, right? You'll likely be enrolled in 4 if you're studying a full-time load, or 3 is also full-time, or you'll be doing 1 to 2 if you're studying part-time, okay? So these are your topics, is what creates your course, okay? And your topics can come from any college, okay? So it's not uncommon if you are an education, if you're getting an education degree, to study some topics in HASS, for example. So there can be a kind of cross-pollination of your topics as long as you are fulfilling your degree program, and that is you are getting the requisite number of courses to qualify you for graduating from within that specific college. So some of your classes will have prerequisites, some of your classes will have, some of your degrees will have classes that are compulsory, and then you have your electives. And your electives are what you can kind of take, whatever you want. So when you are choosing topics, you have your must-do topics, which are your core topics. Then you have your choice of focus, which are your major and minor sequences of topics. So for example, I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts. I majored in English and I minored in art history. Hence why this is the only job I could get. And then your free choice are your elective topics, okay? So these are ones that you can study from a variety of any college that you please. So we also have a variety of support services, and these are the services that can help you throughout your degree through a variety of issues. So your libraries, there are libraries on each campus. The biggest one is the Central Library, which is just kind of out those double doors across the Humanities Courtyard. That is level 1 of the Central Library there. Our librarians can help you with almost anything. They are magicians and sorcerers, and they can help you with research. They can help you with finding sources. They can help you narrow your research scope. If you are ever struggling with researching, go to the library and ask a librarian, okay? There is also Flinders Connect. How many of you have engaged with Flinders Connect? Great. So this is anywhere, any issues that you might be kind of struggling with, from enrollments to ID cards to your HECS to kind of signing up for or enrolling into your degree program. Flinders Connect is where you want to go. All right, so again, if you go out those double doors, in past the humanities courtyard, and you go down those outdoor stairs to the left. They're painted with a rainbow flag when you're looking up, so you know which ones they are. Level, kind of down one level, so underneath level 1 of the library, that's where Flinders Connect is. If you need any enrollment help this week, Flinders Connect. If you need to get your ID card this week, Flinders Connect. There will be a line, okay? But it is good to go there. Now, if you ever need any support with health, we have health services. So we have a counselling and disability service, and we also have kind of doctors and nurses that are on staff. Our health buildings are located on Registry Road, which is the road where you likely arrived today, where all the bus stops are, right out in front of the hub. Registry Road, that's where all of our health services are. We have bulk billing GPs, okay? And I believe we also have bulk billing counsellors. So if there's ever any support that you might need, look into the health service. I always say to new students, these things are free, not out of the goodness of our hearts, but because you've already paid for them, okay? This is what your fees pay for. Use all of the services that you're provided, okay? We also have careers and employability services. So if you ever want to look into how I can get a job in my field, are there any internship goings? How can I become more employable? I would like to make my resume better. Careers and employability are on level 2 of the Central Library. It's always best to Google their open hours and their availability, but they run a lot of workshops and programs throughout the semester that can help you with all things career, all things finding jobs. They're also really good with helping with transitional pathways. So I'm coming up to the end of the degree. I don't really know what I'm going to do from here. Please help me. And they will, okay? And we also have a lot more services that you will find throughout, but FUSA is a big one, the Flinders University Student Association. They handle all of the clubs that we have on campus, a lot of the student engagement we have on campus. We also have student magazines, we have student council. So all of these things are put in place to help kind of support you throughout your degree. So, once you are in your degree, you know your college, you know what you're studying, you know your degree program, then we have our learning activities. So what exactly am I going to be asked to do, and what do these words actually mean? So have we encountered these words before? Put your hand up. Most of us, fantastic. So lectures are a forum to share specialist knowledge with a large audience. This we could consider to be a lecture, okay? I'm kind of just standing here in the front of the room and telling you stuff. That's a lecture. You are not asked really to respond to me. There is no feedback I'm really requiring from you other than maybe a raising of the hand every now and then to just check that you're not asleep. That is a lecture. That is the kind of maximum amount of in-person engagement that you're going to have to perform at a lecture. Now, it is really, really important when you attend your lectures that you have attempted your readings. Okay? Now, I know that this may not sound like a must, but it's really important that you've at least attempted your readings by the time you go to your lecture, because your lecture will oftentimes clarify the information that you're getting from your reading. Okay? The other thing about lectures is that they are likely going to be recorded and posted online. There are some instances where you are required to attend. That is up to your tutor. That has nothing to do with me. But they should all be recorded and put online for you to watch kind of when you please. I would really, really, really strongly stress that you do need to watch them every week. And it's likely a requirement that you have seen them before you go into your tutorial or your workshop. Okay? I know that it might seem like the first thing to go when you're planning your university timetable. They're like the kind of easiest thing to just go like, oh, it's a lecture, don't worry about it, I'll catch up later. Try to be consistent with them, okay? I've been that student who hasn't gone to a single lecture and then has gone to the exam, and it's not a place you want to be, all right? So we then have our tutorials and workshops. So these are an extension to lecture-based content, okay? They're a place where you discuss thoughts, where you practice problems or calculations, and where you ask questions. Now, this is the most important part. This is the most important requirement of a tutorial. It is a place for you to ask questions of your tutor, which is why we always say you must have done your lecture or watch the lecture, and you must have done your readings before you attend the tutorial. Okay, it's literally a time, usually about an hour to 2 hours long, specifically a time where you can ask questions of your tutor. Okay, tutorials are also the most labor intensive in terms of what is being asked of you in the room, okay? You will often be asked to do group discussion with the entire room. You will also often be asked to do small group discussion. So you might be paired off with people next to you or within the people that are sitting at your table and be asked to discuss things like the reading or the weekly content or the lecture, or be asked to answer questions that have been provided to you by your tutor, okay? If you have any kind of concerns with that kind of public engagement or that kind of public speaking, it's really, really good to let your tutor know if you feel comfortable within the first week, okay? This ensures that they can make sure that you're as comfortable as possible in that room, because you will be asked to talk in a tutorial. Maybe not in front of the whole room, but you will likely be asked to at least discuss something with the person sitting next to you maybe. And so if that's something that you struggle with, it's really important to tell your tutor if that's something that you feel comfortable doing. So again, we can kind of support you through the tutorial setting. You then may also have labs and pracs. So who here is doing doing STEMI? Who here is like science engineering vibes? All smarter than me. You're going to be doing labs and pracs a lot throughout your degree. So these are specialized workshops specifically kind of created so that you can practice the work and the skills of a professional. Okay, so you may be running experiments in these labs. You may be kind of simulating a professional experience in these labs. All right. And it is very important, once again, that you have done your lecture and that you've done your readings, okay? You do not want, as bad as it is to walk into a tutorial unprepared, you really don't want to walk into a prac unprepared. You really don't want to walk into a lab unprepared, okay? People are going to be asking things of you and expecting that you can complete them. Not to an incredibly high standard, but expecting that you can at least attempt them. If you've done the pre-readings and if you've done the pre-content, you'll be at a much higher likelihood of succeeding. And then finally, we have online activities, all right? So these are activities that are available on Flinders Learning Online, aka Flow or Teams. So if you are studying an entirely online degree program, or if you have a few topics that are online only, your lectures, tutorials, and workshops will all be online through Teams. Okay, so you log in through Microsoft Teams using your Flinders Microsoft account, which is just your Flinders email and your Flinders password. Okay, and that's how you engage with your lectures and your tutes. You may also have interactive content to complete, so that may be things like quizzes, that could be things like, I don't know, sometimes there are games, sometimes they make games on Flow, and then discussion forums. So discussion forums will likely be quite important if you're studying online. These are usually weekly or bi-weekly kind of blog posts or diary entries that you have to put on Flow, usually answering quite a simple question or just checking in with your learning, okay? And this is usually just to simulate things like in-person discussion, because we find as teachers that students are a little bit more hesitant to talk in online spaces. So we have things like discussion forums so that you can still kind of have that sense of community alongside your fellow course mates. So, assessments. Why? Well, what is an assessment? An assessment is an item that, assessment items are learning activities that are assessed by your tutor or your lecturer, okay? These are, that might seem relatively simple, but assessments in each topic are also detailed in the Statement of Assessment Methods or your SAM. Have we seen these? Okay. I believe in the next 6 months they actually might be phasing these out, so I'm not going to go into it. But essentially, you will have on your flow page, somewhere on your flow page, a list of the assessments that you are being asked to complete, okay? These will likely be under the Assessments tab on Flow. And they will also note how much of a percentage that assessment is of your overall grade. So look for something called Assessment Hub or Assessments, and this will list the kind of assessments that you're being asked to complete, and also how much of a percentage of your overall grade that one assessment will contribute to, okay? So, assessments may be essays, reports, presentations, quizzes, and exams. These are the most common forms of assessment throughout an undergraduate degree. If you move into later areas of study, you may be asked to do a thesis, for example. But essays, reports, presentations, quizzes, and exams are the ones that you should be your most prepared for. Now, a lot of students, this is their biggest fear ever of all time. If you anticipate that a presentation may be a concern for you, please let your tutor know as soon as you can, okay? Tutors are usually the kind of people that want you to succeed in your studies. The only reason that I'm here is to help you succeed and get you through your degree, right? Usually, we will be more than willing to help accommodate any concerns that you might have, but you have to be as upfront as you can in these scenarios. Now, I'm not saying that you need to disclose any kind of personal information, but being upfront as soon as you can make sure that we can get on the same page as you and that we can try to help you figure something out, right? So in classes that I've run before, an alternate presentation has been to do it just in front of me rather than in front of the whole class, or help their group write the presentation but they don't have to speak in it. Okay, so there are a lot of alternatives that we can offer you. You just have to be upfront and honest with us. Okay? And then what is assessment? Really, the purpose of assessment is to measure where you're at in your learning journey. Okay? That is what I would like you to remember when you go into your degree. Assessment is not a measure of how smart you are. It isn't really even a measure of how much you know in general. It is simply there so that we, as your tutors, can measure where you're at in your learning journey. It also doesn't override any learning that you may do in the future. You can think of them as almost like timestamps. So it's where are you at right now in your journey of learning, okay? They do not determine how intelligent you are, how smart you are, how capable you are. They are just there to let us know really how good we've been at teaching you, okay? We are just as engaged in your learning journey as you are, okay? And how well we're teaching you will also impact your assessment, as well as things like how much you're paying attention to what we're saying, okay? And your learning journey is essentially your assessments and your feedback tell you how much you have learned, where you currently are at in your learning journey, and then what to learn next, which is why paying attention to feedback is really important. I know that when you get a result, my kind of tactic when I was in undergrad was to delete the notification and then never look at it again. Once I had seen what grade I got, I never looked at feedback. And then I realized that I kept getting the same piece of feedback over and over and over again. And it was stopping me from entering that kind of next threshold, okay? So for example, you may be making mistakes in your reference list every time. or you may be misunderstanding a core kind of key idea in your degree. And you won't know unless you've read the feedback, okay? So read that feedback so that you can determine how you can move forward from your assessments, okay? So your assessments are just timestamps of where you're at, and then you use them essentially just to create a ladder to keep learning more, right? So this is what a rubric will look like. Now this is quite an intense rubric. This is a rubric from Foundation Studies, which is a transitional course that we run here at Flinders. But essentially what you want to do is when you get your assessment, you want to look at the rubric. Has everyone in the room put your hand up if you've encountered a rubric before? Okay, some of us, fantastic. A rubric is essentially at university how we grade you. So you will have your criteria on the left-hand side, and then you will have your grade band across the top. And essentially what we do is we go through your assessment, and in the case of this rubric, the top category says structure, introduction. Okay, so I would look at your introduction and I would go, where on the rubric does your introduction sit? Taking into consideration the explanations of those grade bands. So for example, under excellent, it says, inviting clearly and strongly articulates context, thesis statement, and essay outline. So if I believe that your introduction fits well into that category, that is where you'll be placed on the rubric, okay? So this is how you will be graded. A really, really good thing to do is when you have an assessment that is assigned to you, look at the rubric before you start writing, and it will tell you where you need to aim for, okay? So for example, you could be given a research question, and research may be 45% of the overall grade. So then you want to make sure that you're paying a lot of attention to the veracity of your research, okay? So your rubric will guide where your effort should go when you're writing. And then we have grades at Flinders. So this is your grading scale. It starts at a high distinction, which is anything that is an 85% or above. You're graded out of 100 at Flinders. So you can get really anything from 0 to 100. Anything above 85% is what we call a high distinction. And that will give you a point score of 7. Okay, so your GPA or your grade point average is calculated out of 7 at Australian universities. I could not tell you why, but 7 is the number. And if you get a HD, the contributor of that assessment to your overall GPA, it provides you with a 7. Okay, so not only are you graded for assessment, but the culmination of those grades make up the grade for the topic at the end of semester, right? And then all of those topics combined make up your grade point average. Okay, so anything above an 85%, that's a HD. From 75% to 84%, that is a distinction. And these are kind of often how they're notated. So HD, DN, CR. That is a point score 6. A credit is 65 to 74%. Point score is a 5. We then have a pass, which is 50 to 64%, point score 4. A fail, which is anything below 50%, which is a point score of 0. And then you have a non-graded pass. So you may come across assessment in your time at university that is, it's important that you do it, and maybe it's compulsory to do, but it doesn't award you with a grade. So it's a pass-fail. You either do it or you don't. That is a non-graded pass. And all of these things are really, really important to keep in mind when you are looking to transfer degrees, whether you want to go into a degree after your degree, whether you want to go into postgrad, whatever it is. But my advice is try to let it go as much as you can. I know that might seem counterintuitive. I know everyone in here wants to do the best they can at university, but genuinely, These numbers do not determine your worth or your intelligence or whatever. They're simply just a marker of where you're at the time. But if you're having concerns with wanting to grow or get into that next grade band, potentially there's a minimum that you'd like to meet so that you can change degrees or do whatever you might want to do at university. You can always come to the Student Learning Support Service, or you can talk to your tutor about how you might want to get into that next grade band. Okay, we also have some specific kind of dates or terminology that you'll want to keep in mind. So if you are engaging in a topic and it isn't helping you in the way that you thought it would, or if you no longer have time to do it, if you want to go down to part-time, if you want to do something else with your time instead, these are some of the terminology that you want to keep in mind. So we have census date. Now, your census date, oh, that is the wrong date. My apologies, didn't upgrade it from last year. So your census date is the date at which you can leave the topic without incurring fees. Now, I know that a lot of you probably have ignored the concept of a HECS debt right now, but when you are my age and you're paying it back, you will remember it. So if you want to withdraw by the census date, and you will not have to pay tuition, and it will not affect your overall GPA. Let's have a look. The census dates in 2025 are 29th of June 2025 for enrollment. I think it's earlier than that. The 4th of April, okay? So if you are engaged in your topic and you do not want to do it anymore, leave by this date. You have to drop out officially through the Flinders Student Management System. So essentially where you enroll is where you can unenroll. Reminder, 4th of April, put it in your calendar, because there is nothing worse than missing it by a few days, all right? And I've been there before as well. So if you want to withdraw, keep the census date in mind. Now, if you withdraw and you miss the census date, but you still are like, I really don't want to do this, withdraw before the withdraw no fail date. That should be a few weeks after the census date. If you Google it, you'll be able to find it. But this is essentially a time where you can withdraw. You will still have to pay the fees, but it will not impact your overall GPA. All right, and then there is the dreaded withdraw fail date. So that is essentially you withdraw after the WNF date and you fail the topic, you have to pay for it. Sometimes it can affect your GPA. And then there is also an absent fail, which is essentially if you don't submit any work and you fail, okay? So just remember that the topics that you're engaged in, they will make an overall impact on things like your GPA. So if you have a feeling that you may not want to complete the topic, please talk to your topic coordinator or your tutor, who you will all be meeting next week, okay? Please talk to them and discuss your options with them. And they may be able to point you in a better direction, or they might be able to help you get through the topic, okay? So really, really think critically about where am I spending my money and where am I spending my time? Because it might not seem like it now for some of you, especially domestic students. You probably have a HECS, but really, really be critical about where exactly it is you're spending your money and your time. So all of these numbers, all of these percentages add up to an overall GPA. So your GPA is your grade point average, the average of all of the point scores for all of the topics that you've studied in your degree, which is useful for degree transfer and additional study, as I was saying before. So if you do 1 year of Bachelor of Arts and you want to transfer into law, they will likely look at your grade point average to determine whether or not you have met the minimum requirements to access that degree. All right, and then also additional studies. So if you would like to go into honours and then maybe a master's and then maybe a PhD after that, they will take your grade point average into consideration. There is likely a minimum grade point average that you need to meet, okay? it is really not something I would encourage you stressing about in the first, 6 months of your degree. But if you do have those forward ambitions, then it is something to keep your eye on, okay? I personally didn't know I wanted to go into honours until second year, and that's when I kind of kicked my butt into gear, and I was able to bring up my GPA enough to get into honours. So, there's always a comeback. And this is what a transcript or a degree may look like. So this is actually my old one from my Bachelor of Arts that I graduated a long time ago in 2018. And my final GPA was a 5.69, as you can see, which is really like a low distinction, high credit average. And I got into a PhD. So there's always a comeback story to be had. But this is essentially what your degree may look like, what your transcript might look like at the point where you're finishing your degree. It's not often that you really get to look at these things, so I figured I'd put it in there so that you could all see what it looks like when you're all said and done with it, okay? And also, see at the bottom, I had fail no submissions at the bottom, so sometimes it just happens. So, grades at Flinders, okay? Learning, as I have been saying, is very, very key. I would encourage you to look at Carol S. Dweck, who is the author of the Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. But essentially what we kind of talk about at Flinders a lot is something called a growth mindset, okay? And this is the idea of creating a mindset in which learning is a tool through which you grow, okay, and not a kind of marker of your capacity or a marker of your intelligence. So grades are just a byproduct of engaging deeply and effectively in the learning process. The learning process is what should be front of mind throughout your degree. So, do we have any questions? Yes?
A little bit about the different types of workshops. Are seminars essentially like just...
Seminars are essentially tutorials. Okay. Yes. So a seminar may run for a little bit longer than a tutorial. Sometimes you can get like a 1 to 3 hour seminar. They're usually 2-ish hours. A seminar will likely take the format of somebody gets up and lectures a little bit, and then you sit in small groups and discuss together. So it's a bit of a hybrid between a tutorial and a lecture. Any other questions? Yes?
If your degree isn't an online degree, like, can you take some lectures online? Can you take some classes online?
Yes. There should be the opportunity for you to choose to take an online version of really any topic that you're in. And most, if not all, lectures should be streamed and available online after the lecture. Yep. Oh, yep.
Sorry, on that, will you have like a, let's say like a percentage that you need to attend in person? Is there like kind of like...
It's usually for tutorials.
Yeah.
So usually for tutorials, you will have an amount that you can miss before your participation grade starts to suffer. But I would also remind everyone that we cannot actually mark attendance. So what we actually mark is participation, which is questions being answered in class, conversations you're having with people. So it isn't always enough to just show up. You do have to engage. But it's a general rule of thumb, at least in the colleges where I'm from, that you can miss 2 to 3 without it starting to impact your overall grade. Yeah. Yes?
When we have online lectures in tutorials, like we miss it and we see the recorded session, would that still impact our grades, or we because we can see it afterwards and then?
Yeah, usually I don't actually believe that participation grades are that common online. So again, this will be laid out by your tutor in week 1, so next week, but we absolutely cannot grade your attendance at a lecture, which is why no one tells you that, because they want you to come anyway, okay? That's why it's a secret. Yep.
Are there any circumstances where people can resubmit their assignment?
So yes, are there any circumstances under which you can resubmit? Usually, if you fail an assessment, you will be given the opportunity to resubmit. So often, if you pass the assessment, but you are unhappy with your grade, the best you can usually do is ask for the assessment to be remarked. Okay, so you have the right always to ask for your assessment to be remarked if you feel like there has been a little bit of unfairness in the grading process, so you can get a kind of objective third party to mark the assessment. If you do submit an assessment and you fail it, usually the prerequisite is if you've submitted all of the other assessment up to that point, you'll be given the opportunity to resubmit that assessment. And that also goes for if you get to the end of your topic and you're failing the topic, but you've submitted all of the previous assessment, you will often be given the opportunity to do a supplementary assessment to get you over that line, right? So we will always reward effort, okay? So if you've put in the effort, you've submitted everything and you still haven't got there, we will always work with you to get you over the finish line. Yeah. All right, any other questions? Yes?
When it comes to the census date, if you withdraw rather close to it,
Yeah.
is it not then too late to transfer or re-enroll in something else?
Yes. So I believe the last date to transfer into another class is week 3. So I believe that is usually the cutoff date for unenrolling and re-enrolling into a different course. Now that's usually because after 3 weeks, it's very, very difficult for you to catch up. So usually 3 weeks is the cutoff. So if you aren't happy with a course and you would like to maybe see if you can go into something else, give it a go for a couple of weeks and then try to make that move before or after week 2, but like before week 3. So maybe in that weekend you can think about it. But that's also really important to keep in mind, because if you unenroll close to the census date, then you are unable usually to enroll in another course. And if you are on Centrelink, or if you need to meet a minimum amount of units studied, say you need to study at full time to get whatever it is that you need to get, 4 and 3 are considered full time, 2 and 1 topics are part time. Yes?
Going off something similar, because that's kind of in the brackets of when you can still use your SACE and everything.
Yep.
What happens if you've completed one course but you want to do something completely different?
In terms of transferring or in terms of credits?
Like, completed like an arts topic and you want to do like a business topic next. So you're able to do that without having like the previous stuff?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So do you mean in terms of enrolling into a new degree?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah. You're usually, unless you don't need to transfer those top credits unless you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, but for example, if you've done an arts course and you want to go into a business course, sometimes you can use those credits as elective credits, so you can do less overall in the degree. But yes, you're able to transfer without taking over any of your previous study.
Oh, good, because I thought we had to do the same thing as we got into the first one. That's all.
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
Yes?
For the assessments, like before submitting an assignment, is there someone who can help us to see like if I've done it correctly, or if there's something that should not be the part of the referencing is done correctly?
Yes, so I would recommend come to the Learning Lounge. So Level 2 Central Library, open from 11 to 4, Monday to Friday. We can have a look over your assessment and see how well it aligns with the rubric and the assessment guidelines. What I would also suggest is looking into something called Studiosity. So Studiosity should be available on every single one of your flow pages. It should be...
Different flow page for every subject?
Yes, there will be a different one for every subject. So you can essentially go down here to Studiosity in this tab, you open it up. It's brought to you by Flinders, and essentially what you can do is upload an entire assessment, and an online learning advisor will look at it and will give you feedback on it.
So for every subject, there would be a Studiosity, different Studiosity?
No, it's the same Studiosity. I believe you have a max of 8,000 words per semester. But you shouldn't go over that.
Okay, so like if this, I go to the Studiosity here,
Yep.
not to the flow.
You can go to Studiosity through Okta if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. It's the same, it's just different links, but it's the same program.
And for the learning lounge, if you have to come here, so is it okay, like I'm a plus student at Bedford Park, and can I go to the city?
Yes, you can go to Festival Plaza campus as well. Level 4 Learning Lounge is open Monday to Friday.
Thank you.
Yes, here? Sorry, can you repeat that for me? No. So this is something to keep in mind for assessment resubmission. If you go to for assessment regrading, if you get your assessment regraded and the regrade is lower, that regrade stands. Okay? So you don't get to choose which one's which is why it is a gamble to do it. But if you truly believe that you've been graded unfairly, it's always worthwhile to reach out and to get a second opinion on that assessment. But if the second marker believes that the grade should be lower, the lower grade will stand. Yep.
Studiosity like a drop.
Yep.
Program, so instead of the student lab doesn't do the drop, Studiosity does drop.
Yes, so Studiosity will look through your full draft and they will give you very, very intense feedback. The Learning Lounge will look more broadly at your overall assessment. Okay, so essentially, if you come to the Learning Lounge, it's a really good idea to come with some questions in mind. You know, so if you go, I'm really concerned that I'm not meeting the assessment brief, that's what we can specifically look for. And that's just because we see a lot of students every day. Now, the other thing that I would tell you to do is go to the Student Learning Support Service flow page, and we have 2 AI chatbots called Study Buddy and Study Buddy Drafts, where you can upload the entirety of your assessment and get feedback to you. Now, this is a closed kind of, it's not a open language. It's a closed resource AI, essentially. It's trained on our SLSS resources to provide feedback based on the SLSS resources. So if you want to, you can use Study Buddy Drafts. You log in with Microsoft, which is your Flinders logon, okay? And then you will be able to access support from there, and that is support which will not trigger any AI issues if you are already concerned about that. Yes? Sorry, yes, yeah. It depends on your colleges. Some colleges are up to 10% off per day. Some colleges are 2% off per day. So it's really, really worthwhile asking your tutor what the late penalty is. They will likely outline it in week 1, but if it's something that you're concerned about, definitely reach out to them. What I would also say is that Flinders University has an extension policy wherein you are allowed to ask for up to 3 days without any external evidence. And usually up to 3 days will be granted, okay? So if you need an extension, just ask for one. Even if you preemptively want to ask for one because you potentially think there could be an issue, always better to ask for the extension than to submit the work late, okay? All right, do we have, yes? Are you allowed to take courses across majors? Yes. Usually some will be determined as your major and some will be determined as electives, but especially in the first year, yes, you're encouraged to kind of look around and take what interests you. Yes?
My thinking is a placement component. So for that, do I need to contact places and things or universities?
usually your tutor will go through this with you and they will let you know in their specific guidelines. So sometimes there are programs where we kind of align students with potential placement options, but sometimes part of what you're being assessed on is your ability to reach out. So it really depends on what kind of degree and what kind of thing you're being assessed on. But all of that information will be given to you well ahead of time. Yep.
When you ask for your assignment to be regraded, is your tutor aware that you're getting it?
It depends. So is your tutor aware that you're being asked to get a second opinion on your grade? It depends on who you've asked. So usually you'll go to your topic coordinator and you have the right to keep that private and between the two of you. Yep. But usually if that grade then has to be if that grade then has to be amended on flow, your tutor will become aware of it. I promise you they won't hold it against you. I've personally had my marks contested before and I'm like, hey, get your life. If you wanted someone else to look at it, I'm more than happy for it. So it's not something that a tutor will hold against you. All right, yes?
Just quickly, for the census state, are you able to start your degree and do the first like 2-3 weeks and then choose to defer it to semester 2 or next year?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can enroll, do a couple of weeks, go absolutely not, and defer for as long as you need to. Well, as long as your deferment will allow. Yeah. All right. Are we feeling good? Do we feel prepared? Yes? Okay, so what I want you to now do is forget everything I've said and go have fun at O Week. Okay? Have fun at O Week. There is a session coming up next about AI, if that's something that you're interested in. If not, I'm like a locust on this campus. I'm always around, so I'm sure I'll see you soon. Have fun.
One quick question. My semester 1 timetable is okay, but my semester 2 I've got an issue.
Okay.
So I've got 2 subjects that cross over.
Yep. Okay.
One
Yep.
of them I need to do a tutorial, and then the other subject I've only got 1 class which I obviously need to do.
Yep.
And the one tutorial